Hineni, hineni, hineni. Here I am. In our Parsha this week, in Parshat Vayera, we have really one of the most famous and challenging stories in all of our tradition, where God comes to Abraham in chapter 22 of Genesis. Velokim nisa et Avraham. God put Abraham to the test. Vayomer elav Avraham, and God said to Avraham, he said to him, Avraham, he called his name, Vayomer hineni, and he said back that word that I just chanted, hineni, here I am. Sometimes I like to think that maybe that was the test, all of it. When God calls your name, you just say, here I am. That's the test. Just to listen, to hear, and to answer with presence. And sometimes I think of our meditation practice as hineni practice being in this moment, being present to whatever comes, not the thoughts of the past or the future, but just being here. Maybe that truly is our test. And I'd like to think with you and practice through with you today a little bit about what it means to answer with hineni and what it means to be tested. And I'm hopefully going to introduce a couple of ways of thinking about this that are perhaps a little untraditional. Because normally when we think about the test of the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, of his son, we ask the question, did he pass? Did he fail? And I want to say maybe the test is something else. I want to share with you that I'm thinking about these questions and I'm practicing in an unusual setup for me. You might notice, for those of you who've seen me teach before, I'm in a different background. I'm actually usually coming from the Bay Area, and I'm in Virginia right now. I'm in the home of my parents, and I'm helping my mother and my father, as my father has just entered into home hospice care. And this is a place where I am so grateful to have this practice, to be able to say hineni to what is true, to what is actually happening, and to be with it. I want to share with you the way that one rabbi, a Hasidic rabbi named the Tiferet Shlomo, he's a 19th century Polish rabbi. He looked at the word for Abraham being tested, nisayon, right? Nisa, here is our verb. Nisayon is the noun for a test. And he says, actually, the important part of that word here is the first two letters. That's the root of it, grammatically, part of it. And he says that really that's an acronym for somech noflim, for supporting the fallen. That a test isn't a test to see, can you pass or can you not pass? Or in our day, are you positive or are you negative, right? All of our different feelings and maybe resistance to this idea of testing. He turns it on his head and says, actually, whenever you come to a test in your life, whenever you come to a challenge, expected or unexpected, it's not there to see, are you good enough? Can you make it through? That's not what it's about. It's about finding a new level of support. I want to think about this. What would it mean for us when we meet the challenging moments of our lives? And we don't think, can we do it or can we not do it? But can we think, what support is available to me? What might actually be supporting me in this moment of difficulty? And in my own experience, I'm thinking specifically that these moments of challenge often bring moments of discernment, of clarity, of seeing what's truly important, what truly matters to us. Maybe a test is a somech noflim opportunity, an opportunity to receive a new kind of support. Perhaps it's an opportunity for truly a clear-eyed hineni, of being with whatever is new and true. But of course, these same two letters, nun samech, also are the letters for the word nes, miracle. And perhaps that's also a piece of this, to be able to see in any moment, in any situation, the possibility of being present, the possibility of saying hineni, of meeting the moment with clarity and with an openness to awe. Presence to listen for the voice of God and the voices of those who are closer to us in the here and now. So I'd like to invite you into practicing this together. So I hope you'll find a position that's comfortable, whether you're sitting or standing or lying down. And since we're thinking about somech noflim, I'd like to suggest we think about how we're being supported in our physical posture. So if you're seated, you might be thinking about how a chair or a sofa is supporting you right now. You might feel that up against your tush. And just notice what the feeling of the support feels like. Is it comfortable? Is it uncomfortable? Do you feel supported? Without needing to change anything, just noticing what is actually true. And we might want to notice just where our feet, if our feet are on the ground, how they are being supported by the earth, by the floor. Perhaps your hands are folded in your lap, being supported. Just take a moment to notice anywhere that a part of your body is touching something else, including another part of the body. Noticing what are the sensations that arise. And you also might notice that supporting the truth of your being right now, the truth of your life, is that you are breathing. The inhale and the exhale of the breath, making it so, keeping us sustainably alive, bringing what we need into our body, and allowing us to release what no longer serves. Another form of support that is always available. I'd like to invite you to notice the truth of your breathing, the truth of each breath. And as the mind continues to do its normal job of skipping around and thinking about the past and thinking about what else we have to do today, for the next 10 minutes, we're just going to sit with an anchor, either the physical body, the sensations of the body, and if you like, you can be thinking about how you are being supported through the physical body or through the dynamic of the inhale and the exhale. We'll take some time to practice being in this moment. And I'll lead us off with the Hineni chant. Here I am. Hineni. Hineni. Hineni, hineni, hineni. Here I am. I'd like to share with you a poem about perhaps what the test of our lives might be. In the evening, we shall be examined on love by Thomas Santaella. And it won't be multiple choice, though some of us would prefer it that way. Neither will it be essay, which tempts us to run on when we should be sticking to the point, if not together. In the evening, there shall be implications our fear will change to complications. No cheating, we'll be told, and we'll try to figure the cost of being true to ourselves. In the evening, when the sky is turned that certain blue, blue of exam books, blue of no more daily evasions, we shall climb the hill as the light empties and park our tired bodies on a bench above the city and try to fill in the blanks. And we won't be tested like defendants on trial, cross-examined till one of us breaks down, guilty as charged. No, in the evening, after the day has refused to testify, we shall be examined on love, like students who don't even recall signing up for the course and now must take their orals, forced to speak for once from the heart and not off the top of their heads. And when the evening is over and it's late, the student body asleep, even the great teachers retired for the night, we shall stay up and run back over the questions, each in our own way. What's true? What's false? What unknown quantity will balance the equation? What it would mean years from now to look back and know we did not fail. I hope our practice today and our learning will be a help and a blessing for you to take whatever is going on in your life as an opportunity to see what resources you have, somech noflim, and also for the nes, for the miracle, for the awe that might be present, but most especially to be able to access a posture of hineni, of here I am, of willingness and readiness and openness to this ever-changing dynamic moment. Thank you for your practice. May it be a blessing to you and to all, and especially thank you, Roseanne, for your sponsorship. Thank you, Adi, and thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Rabbi Dorothy Richman, for that really extraordinary teaching and practice for today. Friends, we we seal that practice as we always do by offering an opportunity for those of you who are in mourning or observing a yard site, or if it's your custom to participate in Kaddish, to do so. And for everyone who is not reciting the Kaddish, to continue your practice by being a supporter for those who are, by being present, compassionate, and attentive, and bearing witness together. So for those who are reciting Kaddish, I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit. And if you'd like, you can put the name or names of those you're honoring today in the chat box, either now or after we recite Kaddish. Yid Gadol, Yid Kadash, Shemei Rabbah. Yalma, Divra, Chirute, Yamlich, Malchute, V'chayechon, V'yomechon, V'chaye, T'chal Beit Yisrael, ba'agala, v'bizman kariv, v'imru amen.
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 Hey Shmei
Hey,
Rabba
Shmei Rabba
Mevarach
Mevarach
Se'olam
Se'olam Maya.
Maya
Ome, Omaya.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei Dekuta v'yikut
V'imru.
Ela min kol birchata
Elaman
v'shirata
Tavishirata Tukshakata
tushkachata
Venakamata
v'nechamata
Damiran
ba'amiran
Yama
ba'ama
Vimru
v'imru
Amen.
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 Yehi
Yehe
shlama rabba
Shlama
nu
Rabba Nu
shamaya
Shamaya
Omaya.
Vakaim
V'chaim
Alinu
aleinu
Ve'al
v'al
Israel
Yisrael v'imru
Vimru
amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom
Ose
v'rama
Shalom Vimru
uyas
Yase
shalom
Shalom Alenu
aleinu
Ve'al
v'al
Kol
kol
Israel
Yisrael
Vimru
v'al
Amen.
kol yoshvei tevel v'imru.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Friends, as always, thanks for joining us today. And as usual, you're welcome to stay on for a few minutes of conversation with our teacher for today, Rabbi Dorothy Richman, about that beautiful teaching and practice. If you are unable to, please do join us tomorrow. Always lovely to sit into Shabbat together on Fridays. Tomorrow we'll be led by Kohenet Kashira Halev Fife, who's back to lead us. And of course, as always, many thanks to you, Adi Stein, for holding us so beautifully, and to Roseanne Ziering for sponsoring today's practice in loving memory of your dad, Siki Ziering, Zichrono Libracha. May his memory be a blessing always for you, Roseanne. And for those who are leaving, have a good, safe rest of the day. Lots of blessings to you. We hope to see you tomorrow or sometime soon. And also remember, if you're able to join us for Torah study this afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern with Rabbi Aaron Leaf Smokler, you're more than welcome to join us. We hope you will. Okay, and if you have a question for Dorothy, please do put it in the chat box. We'll try to keep an eye out. If it's a question, try to put question in all caps, makes it a little easier to catch it. Dorothy, first of all, I want to thank you, and thank you also for sharing, what's the truth of what's happening, what you're going through in your test right now, in which you are really showing up, for your family and for your dad and your mom, and keeping it real, as we say, right? Keeping it real. This is really just a great example of I'm actually working on something at the moment about clergy burnout, especially during the pandemic, and I'm thinking about John Kabat-Zinn's phrase "full catastrophe living," which he got from Zorba the Greek, and thinking about this practice, which it just fit in really perfectly with what you were teaching, of turning this idea of a trial or test on its head, and actually thinking about it as a moment for noticing the presence of support to meet the quote catastrophes, of daily living, large and small. I don't know if I missed something. Maybe I did. I just wanted to ask you this actually, because first of all, I got that right. Yes. Okay. Second of all, but you said you were going to offer a couple of options for thinking about the test. Did I miss one, or did you not get to it?
There was also the possibility of thinking of it as a Ness.
Oh yeah, right.
As a miracle,
Yeah.
as a station for awe. And if I'd had more time, I was going to include the beautiful piece of Talmud that talks about the questions you're asked when you die.
Oh yeah.
Right. And the sum of that, it talks, so what was your business like? What was your family like? But then it moves on to like things like what did you hope for? What did you yearn for? What did you learn from this experience? Which are all fascinating questions. But for me, the end of it says, but if you didn't have awe, if you didn't have yira in your life, it doesn't matter. None of these questions matter. If you didn't go through the process of living and think, oh my gosh, what an experience, then none of the other questions matter.
If it's okay, I'm gonna just share my screen just so we can look at that pasuk, that verse.
Yeah.
Just so that people can see, what you were talking about here. This is the first verse of Genesis 22, the beginning of the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, and it's this phrase here, Vaha Elohim Nisa et Abraham, that Dorothy was referring to. And right, so this word in particular, Nisa. So that teaching, can you just repeat that teaching? You said this Tiferet Shlomo?
Yes.
It's a Hasidic teaching, which
Yes.
says basically this is the Nun and the Samach here are a reversed acronym of Somech Noflim, lifting up the fallen, right?
Yes.
That was the teaching?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I should give credit. I think I originally came through it through our teacher, Rabbi Jonathan Slater, and it actually moves on as a Hasidic teaching will into a very complicated, Zoharic system. But here, I think that it's just enough, and we have so mechanoflim in our tefillah, daily in the Amidah and also in the Ashrei, this idea of receiving support when we buckle. Noflim is often seen as falling, but I like to think of it as like just that pressure point when you buckle. How do you find your strength and your grounding?
Yeah.
This practice is so much that for me.
It's really great. And it just to before I stop the screen share, also pointing out, like you're saying, that the word nes, which also means miracle or wonder, is also kind of, if you play in Hebrew, always, we have the freedom to play with the language and the letters. So something miraculous going on there, which is very different than the usual sense of like you did with the trial, and also to end with that poem. I'm going to put the link to the poem, by the way, in the chat box, because I know everybody's going to want that. That's one of my favorites. I love that poem. And also that Somech Noflim phrase, the upholding those who are buckling, just to use your translation there, is in the Gevura blessing of the Amidah, the second blessing of the Amidah, the blessing about strength. What does strength look like? It's so really that translates every moment of life, whatever the degree of challenge or burden is, into a moment of just being, as you were, I'm just like feeding back the teaching to you, of just being present and feeling, not being alone in it, really, like having a sense of being supported, uplifted, straightened, and this quality of strength flowing through us to be with what we need to be with, no matter how heartbreaking or beautiful it might be, or both at the same time. And imagining that, this is, many of us have been through this, if not all of it, all of us will be or through it in different forms, right? And what a beautiful teaching. I'm not asking a question. I'm just hopefully reflecting back to you just mirroring back the beauty of that teaching. And hopefully, I know from experience that when you teach it, it's when one teaches it, it's helpful to teach it. It's also really helpful to hear it back too. So I hope you can take that back too.
Thank you. Absolutely.
All right, there is a couple of questions. Okay. Well, let's see. The poem, I gave you the poem. All right, Laura Sinker always has a great question. When you feel like you're currently being tested, how do you find what it takes to access a posture of hineni in real time?
It's such a great question.
Yeah.
And I think this really works so differently for different people. But since we're gathered as a mindfulness community, I really, for myself, having the word hineni available, it's so helpful, right? It says so much to me. It's one word, but just reminds me I'm not in control. It reminds me my job is just to be here. It just grounds me in what I think that posture is. It's just readiness. That's what Rashi says. And it takes off the burden of needing to know. and of needing to do. And I saw another question. And if we're not being supported externally, then I think one way to connect into a feeling of support, right? What is exactly what we did, either physically to feel like, where am I supported right now? You can't see, but like I'm digging my hands into the carpet, right? Oh, the ground is beneath me, right? Feeling like there is actually something stable, right? There's something I can lean on, even physically, right? And for me, for many people, the breath is not a great anchor, but for me, I love it, right? And just the fact of the breath and feeling breathed, for me, I find breathing a very spiritual and even theological experience, that I am being. So sometimes I'll just say, when I'm in a moment of challenge, or even if I'm just particularly open that morning in a sit, I will just say to myself, right now, I've been doing my best with all the thoughts I've had. And I will just say, now I'm going to try not to have my thoughts, right? And I'm going to open up to this practice. And as God is breathing, the nishima, the breaths into me, now I'm open to God's contributions. Now I'm open to the divine contribution. And I find support that way. So if that works for you, I think we can find support even, sometimes it's from someone, but not always, not always.
Another really good question here about showing up for ourselves, versus, I don't know, I guess versus others. It's a question from Lori about it. Can you speak to Hineni as showing up for others versus oneself, I think.
Absolutely.
As perhaps equally holy and virtuous, because I think it's true, because we're talking about a context of showing up, for others.
Absolutely. And I will just say that teaching Torah has been a beautiful support for me as well in learning Torah. And yesterday I happened to teach a class on Job, which is just so funny almost. And it's another text where someone is tested, a horrible test, and what I came to see is that Job, it's 42 chapters. And the part about God and the part about Job is 3 chapters. It's nothing. The bulk of the book is the friends. And the friends, when they first come in the end of the 2nd chapter, all they do is they come and they sit with him and they don't say a word. And that's the best they do throughout the rest of the book, because once they start talking, they just, their ego comes up. They need to be heard. They need to prove things. It's exactly what you don't need, right? When you need support, what you need from a friend is a hineni, right? And we have another beautiful Talmudic example of this in Brachot, in Masechet Brachot, where a friend starts to come to another friend and being all philosophical. What do you think your suffering means? He doesn't want to talk about it. He holds his hand, and that's what helps, right? I just think that when we're up in these places of support, we're not looking for someone to explain it to us. We're looking for someone to be with us as we experience it and decide what it means for us now or later, right? Just to be there. And so I think that as I often say when I hear that something has happened to a good friend, I just say, sometimes I don't know what they need, but I say, I'm here, hineni, right? And I let them know. And sometimes we can be more specific, can I bring you a meal, right? Can I do your laundry? Can I take care of your carpools, right? Whatever state, wherever we are, we can ask, but those are ways of supporting and saying, I'm here with you, instead of, oh, I know what you're doing. I did that too, right? Or this is what I think it means. Or you're actually, and this is what the friends say too, this is actually really good for you. You should be happy about this, right? No, none of that.
That's always helpful.
Yeah, these are not pastoral actions.
Yeah, there's a question here that I think it's just probably it's a good place to bring it in for a landing, but especially because what you taught today, Dorothy, I thought was just such a wonderful way of recognizing that, when we're dealing with English translation, we get some problems that maybe are not so necessary. So Mitchell's writing, why are we using the word testing, being tested, instead of being human, having an experience? Testing sounds punitive to me. Well, yeah, exactly. So I think what you were offering is to say, like, you don't have to translate it that way. That's one person's English version of that. But what you're suggesting is that the Hebrew actually has a different connotation here. We can really believe that it has a different connotation of, instead of it being a test, it's a support. It's a miracle. It's like a presence. It's an invitation to be present, right? Very different than a test, and of course the poem does, also turns test on its head too. So recommend, it's an amazing poem. By the way, I'm putting your, for those who would like to be in touch with Dorothy and see where Dorothy is teaching. Dorothy teaches, in the Bay Area, but also online and through the Romamo Yeshiva, which I forgot to mention earlier, in Or Halev. So anyway, when we're working in the English translation, we're definitely working at a disadvantage. And the beauty, the amazing part about Hebrew is that it's just like so rich with possibility, right? The same word which we're stuck with testing here is miracle, is support, is presence. So thank you for teaching us all of that today, Dorothy, and may you feel the support coming your way, as you navigate this really tough stretch, and may your dad be comfortable and at peace and feel loved and upheld, and may his soul have a sweet journey, and your whole family, may they feel surrounded by love at this time. Okay. All right, many blessings, everyone. Hope to see you tomorrow to practice with Kashira Halev Fife, and